100 or, oh my
Yeah,
goodness, math. Hold on. So 5,000 women.
that's all good.
Somebody that I have interviewed, 2,500 were women, 1,600, so 2/3 of that, were women who did not negotiate. And so listening to 1,600 women not negotiate, like, lit a fire underneath me. And then there was also a point in my career where I found out that I was underpaid by $1,000, which was an absolutely horrible feeling. And thankfully, like, the next year I got not one, not two, but three promotions at my job, and my comp definitely did increase,
Amazing.
right? But nonetheless, I have heard this pain both in my own life and also in 1,600 women that I've interviewed, right?
This is this is this is actually I mean, this is a reality which I can believe, but it's a sad reality that it is. So we are at that point. But it's amazing, Mia, that you have some amazing stats to kind of prove and the gravity of the situation that we're talking about, that what it really means. Because I mean, it is something out there that we know that why we might not be happy. But Mia, because you have interviewed so many women out there who are not negotiating, and this is what you help with people in your 30K program now, that you build that confidence, that negotiation skill, so that they can value themselves more, so that they can put the value on the table when they're negotiating. So today over here, if you can give our listeners, be it women or anyone who's listening to us, what are the top 3 tips that you can probably give our listeners, that if they do this, or if this is their mindset backing whatever they're doing, they will be able to sort of ask for the value that they really deserve?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I think the first thing is actually around resumes, because if your resume does not look exceptional, you're not even going to get to the interview and you're not even going to get to negotiate.
Right.
So having a resume where you quantify the value that you deliver to your previous employer. So Google has an XYZ resume formula, which is amazing. And it is accomplish X as measured by Y, which results in Z, right? So it's a very quantifiable like framework that you can use. So that way you're like, okay, I increased sales by X percentage through implementing a new whatever it is, which resulted in this thing, right? It's really, 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 really specific. And so that's the first thing, is like, you got to have a rock star resume in the very beginning. And then once you're actually in the negotiation, watch your tone. And I know that sounds like a very weird thing, but it's not just the words you say, but it's also how you say the words,
Very important.
right?
Yeah.
So oftentimes when I'm negotiating with someone who doesn't negotiate, typically they do not allow pauses. They are like so scared of having silence in the conversation, and they just rush to fill it, right? And they're just like, and you can tell that they're like nervous, right? And like, I believe that like negotiation, it's kind of like a dance. You're kind of going back and forth. You're like, I always kind of imagine that I'm like kind of like holding the energy, holding the space there. And like that oftentimes men who I negotiate with, who come across as really confident, they're having those pauses. They're taking that time to think through a response and not just say something. So I'd say that is tip number 2. Tip number 3 is don't say the number first. The person who says the number first typically loses. So what you want to do is something actually called reversing. So this is where the recruiter or the hiring manager says, okay, what is the salary range that you're targeting? And you respond back, well, what's the salary range for the role? Right. And then after that, if, they could either tell you that salary range, or circle back with you once they do have that information. And I will say that federally right now, there are 8 states, and this number is continuing to increase as time progresses, that do require companies to post the salary ranges on the job descriptions, right?
Yeah.
But you don't want to be saying that number first. You instead want to be like a detective. You need to be finding out like the full scope of the comp that's available. So even if they post a salary range, they're required to post a salary range. They're not required to post the additional comp and perks, right? So is there a signing bonus that's available? Is there an annual bonus that's available? Typically, what we see in manager level roles and above is that availability for a signing and an annual bonus. And typically, at least for signing bonuses, I've never heard of a signing bonus given unless the candidate has actually requested it, right? And so you need to be like basically like doing a little bit of detective work. So let's just say the job description or the salary range is posted on there. Then the question is like, I noticed the salary range on the job description. I'm curious, does that include the bonuses, stock options, and additional perks? Could you speak to that? Right. So now all of a sudden you're getting the full package. And then once you have that information, you can strategically answer with, what you are targeting. But I always recommend, like, don't feel rushed, right? Just because a recruiter asks, because almost every recruiter or hiring manager asks that in that first conversation, you don't need to tell them that right away, right? Your goal is to find out the salary range, all the perks, everything. You can always follow back after email after you've had a great night's sleep. You've been able to, do your due diligence, make sure that the amount that you're targeting is in line with, the industry and like what the role would provide. And like really you're able to respond back from a place of just confidence and security. And that's really, really great, right? And it's kind of like shifting it from like the recruiter or the hiring manager, like kind of like, aha, I have all the cards, to now all of a sudden it's empowering the individual to say, two can play this game, and an interview is between, two people who either party could say no. It's not just up to the employer.